It's very serious.
I call to order the Communications Advisory Commission meeting for November 1st, 2021. First item on the agenda, call to order.
Fields,
Present.
Nichols,
Here.
Marsh, not here. Bevins.
Here.
And we have a new commissioner who was appointed, Brandy Campbell, who is not here.
Okay. All right, next item, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve?
Can I get a second?
I second it.
All right, all those in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, say same thing. All right, approved. Next item on the agenda, public comment. Any public comment? Looks like there isn't any, so we'll go to the staff report.
Well, I'm always happy to see you folks again. It's been a while since I missed our first in-person meeting, so it's good to see you folks in the flesh instead of everybody in their basement in two dimensions. We are still obviously in a pandemic, and we continue to amplify our public health partners' messaging around precautions and masking. We are still requiring masks in our public facilities here at the city of North Liberty. We're also excited, of course, for upcoming vaccination approval for younger kids, which is exciting, and we'll hope to see folks and help encourage folks to get their kids vaccinated. That'll be a big step. Two big milestones, actually, both today. Today, Micah Ariel James, our brand new Outreach and Equity Coordinator. That's a brand new position. We've been talking about that position for 2 years. Last year it made it into the budget, and we went through a process where we got more than 60 applicants. We put out that posting in August. We accepted applicants through September. We had a committee of 8 folks. Our HR department pulled names off of all those resumes, and so applicants were assessed blindly. We all rated applicants and sort of came to a consensus over with 6 folks that we were going to interview. We had 6 really great interviews in early October. And some really strong candidates and really tough decisions. And we're really excited that Micah accepted and that she started today. She comes to us from Hampshire. She's got where she had a long title there, and I want to make sure I get it correct. She was the Associate Director for Education and Community Engagement there at Hampshire. And she's worked in that space. She's interested in some intergenerational work, which is great, as well as she's really excited to sort of take on this idea of a youth council, which is something that the city council has asked us to sort of look into and figure out what that might be, as well as really to help, again, build bridges at the community center, help us implement inclusive policies there, and really just sort of increase our capacity that we're doing at the community center and in the communications department. We also have a new hire who's helping us with the meeting tonight. Thorne just began tonight. They have done live streaming work, which is great because that's a lot of what the job is, and we're excited to have them on board. We've been talking a lot about events for 2022 in the past month. Beat the Bitter, which obviously happens at the end of January, as well as Blues and Barbecue, which happens in July. But we've also been trying to take as many of those lessons as we could learn from last year in the summer slate and apply those this coming year. So we've been doing our sponsorship asks this year, and one of those asks that we've included in there is Jillian's been asking folks to support a slate of events in addition to these 2 big tentpole events. And we're approaching it much like we approached the summer slate, which is to say we don't know exactly what that program is going to be. We're going to do it all year. It's going to be some enhanced stuff that we already do. It's going to be some new stuff. These are the kinds of things it might be, right? Movies and supporting the summer reading program, and it might be kites, right? We know this, and we need you to trust us. And will you support these community events? These are quality of life community events, and that's been well received. We're taking a limited number of sponsors for that, 10 sponsors just to help with that program. We've got 6 of those 10 spots filled, and we're looking to fill the rest of those yet this month. We're still sort of in this trying to figure out what does programming look like in 2022, especially early 2022. Beat the Bitter will be one of our first big events where we're going to try to figure out what are the precautions that we need to have in place. Can we do indoor anything, and really make sure that we're both leading by example and being smart and working with our public health partners to make that happen. So we're excited. Micah is going to help us do some of that slate programming by helping us bridge with rec and with the library, and with admin to do some of that programming. The Great Neighborhoods Initiative, which is now a year old, we launched a year ago, with a very nice video with Keisha and Jillian. We just met with them for our 4th quarter, sort of did a review of what we've learned, what we want to try to do in the next year. We worked with Sarah, who's in our planning department. We're about to undertake a big comprehensive plan revision, and she took them through an exercise to sort of get them excited. It was really positive, talking about sort of like what's the future of North Liberty, what are things we want to see. Heard a lot of stuff about community event spaces and pedestrian and bicycle connectivity, public transit, and those sorts of things from our neighborhood ambassadors. Derek took a lot of time last month to work on a series of videos highlighting local social service agencies in partnership with the library. Those will get rolled out over time with sort of an agency of the month or a highlighted one, depending upon that timeline. The other 2 things I just want to note is I was involved with Better Together's Big Sort, which was a big strategic planning session, which was exciting. Really looking for what does Johnson County look like in 2030. That followed some strategic planning with ECI-COG, which is the East Central Iowa Council of Governments, which is a larger organization that covers a lot of our neighboring counties. A strategic planning session with them sort of at the very end of September. So everybody's looking forward to 2030 and deciding that this is a time to make big plans. So that's exciting. We obviously have an election tomorrow, and we do strategic planning as a city, typically in the February, March. Usually once we get the budget done, there's usually, following an election, there's usually some strategic planning there too. Those are the highlights I have for you. I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any comments you folks have.
Do you have an idea of when it will be a decision to do the in-person bigger events, Blues and Barbecue, or when that would?
Yeah.
Kind of a guideline as to when you would either have to make a decision one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think we feel pretty confident that Blues and Barbecue is something that we can execute well. We know that folks will have had 18 months of vaccinations at that point this fall or this summer. We know it's outside. We know the mitigation there. So I think we feel pretty good about that. The bigger concerns are the indoor ones, and we also know that folks are doing a lot of indoor events already, right? We know that there's concerts happening locally. We know that there will be sporting events happening locally. And so it's really about us thinking about what mitigation can we do, right? A lot of that's about capacity, right? We can try to keep those indoor things a little bit smaller. We know that we can try to require masks in some cases, as long as it's depending upon what the facilities are. If we go off-site, we know that we have less control. If we go to a private, the Snuggy Bar Crawl as an example, we can't mandate masking because the city simply can't. The state law prohibits us from mandating masks on private businesses. We know that the buses, at least right now, they're following TSA policy, and they are requiring masking on buses. So we're trying to sort of think creatively about ways we can mitigate this. We also are hopeful that increased vaccinations across more age groups will make a difference. But we're getting close to some sort of no go points where we're going to have to make decisions to either make those plans and move forward and still be ready to pull back and cancel if we have to, right? That's the ultimate mitigation, is just not doing it. So we need to be ready to do that and go in with open eyes and being rational there. But I think, we're hopeful that we can make some good choices, and we'll always talk with our public health partners to talk about what would they like to see. Are there things we're missing? Are there things that we should be doing, or that we might, that they might suggest that we tweak to just make things a little bit safer, right? We also know we can look for bigger spaces, right? If we use if we have a larger capacity room with fewer people in it, we know that's also a thing that we can do to help mitigate. I think the other thing that we're just feeling out is people's comfort level, and that's not right. Public health by people's comfort level isn't mitigation, but we know that that's also an important part of how we how we do it. So I wish I had if I had a magic answer. I wish it was clear, and it's not. But I think it's a lot of factors, and we're trying to sort of walk that line carefully.
I'm not sure if this is like something under new business. ARPA communication.
Mm-hmm.
Is that happening? What does that look like?
Yeah.
How is that rolled out?
Yeah, we haven't been particularly involved in any of the ARPA conversations.
Okay.
I know the council has had a work session about what they would like to do,
Yeah.
but we haven't been asked to be involved in those conversations.
Okay. I see a problem there. But okay.
Hey, Nick, I had a quick question
Yeah.
on the Great Neighborhoods, the
Yeah.
ambassadors. You talk about doing a plan to do a survey. Have there been thoughts as to what would be included in that survey?
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to look for is to get a sense of how is this meeting what they expected when they showed up. What are things that they'd like to see us do more of? We've gotten really positive feedback, for example, of doing city department tours, right? A little bit of behind the scenes stuff. But are there, some of the other suggestions that we've heard are things like, could there be a service project or things like that? So that's one part of what we're going to be like. What are the things that we need to do more of or less of? Some of it is sort of what are the elements of this that we haven't approached, and also sort of we've heard ideas about, could we do an award, or some folks have suggested some sort of like incentive program, and so we need to also sort of get a sense of like, is that like a couple people that are asking for that, or is that something that the group as a whole would be really excited about implementing? Those kinds of questions.
So it's more isolated into each neighborhood?
So it's about the ambassador group as a whole. We did a neighborhood survey last spring, and we'd look to do another one of those in the coming year, just so we have a little bit of comparison. It's not scientific by any means, and we see engagement on those surveys from the neighborhoods that you'd expect. We know that there's still an engagement. There's varying levels of engagement, and there's still a gap there for some neighborhoods too. But also that at least gives us a point of, are we helping people feel more connected?
Right.
Do they feel like they're getting the information right? Are we hitting the goals that we sort of
Right.
set out with the program?
Right.
And we'll do
Is it
that. We'll do that in
working?
the next year.
Yeah, is it working and how
Yeah.
well?
Yeah.
So,
Do you
Yep.
know?
great.
Go ahead.
Do you know how many? So we skipped last month, right? Okay. So the Great Neighbors Day. How did that go? What was the count of submissions for Great Neighbors? How
Yeah.
did that turn out?
Yeah, so we ended up. So our plans changed a little bit. Our initial plan for Great Neighborhood Day was to have every neighborhood have an event, and that we were going to figure out how to make sure that the neighborhoods that didn't have an ambassador, we would make sure that we found a way to get something to happen there. We heard from some of our neighborhood ambassadors. They got to a point where they, with rising case counts, were uncomfortable having an in-person event, whether it was indoors or outdoors, and they weren't excited about it. So we pivoted, and there was 6 events. Some of those were multiple neighborhoods together in our parks. A lot of them had neighborhood, some of those grant funds that we set aside. We did like rented a popcorn machine for Harvest Estates, and we did an ice cream truck, helped with an ice cream truck for another, and a few of those. I don't know off the top of my head how many of those grants we've done. I want to say we've done about 8 grants, so I feel pretty good. We did give them through the end of next June, and we have reiterated to them that it's helpful for us if they let us know if they have plans for these, so that as we're in a budget cycle, we need to ask for money now if we're going to have if we're going to need more funds for starting in July 1. So I think Great Neighborhood Day was, I think it was Great Neighbor Day. I think went really well. I think, we've got some neighborhood ambassadors who are really excited to do it. I think we had folks who maybe stepped outside their comfort zone to get their neighbors together. I think, part of it too is reiterating to them that getting your neighbors together doesn't have to be a big production, right? Eva Anderson, one of our neighborhood ambassadors, says, look, at our Q4 meeting, she said, we had a guy play music in a garage, and everybody sort of hung outside in their driveway. That's all, and that's all you need, right? Setting aside time to get together and say, I'm going to hang out in the park, can be enough for a lot of folks too. And so that level of neighborhood friendliness, it just doesn't have to be that high. And in some ways, that grant funding is almost just an excuse, giving them an excuse to put something together.
Yeah. One of the things I would suggest, because I noticed on Nextdoor that some of the ambassadors were posting about events, but they weren't stating that they were ambassadors. So I think that would have been a lot stronger. It just seemed like they were just a random person, like, hey, but it was like, I'm an ambassador to this area, check out this event. And then I also think that they posted the event like the day before.
Yeah.
Instead of giving it some time for people to like, oh,
Yeah.
that's happening. I got time.
And I think it's interesting because a lot of them, some of the feedback we've gotten is that Nextdoor just isn't the right platform for them, and a lot of them have built out Facebook groups, which is great for some folks. We're still, I think that's one of the things we're still trying to learn is what's the best connection method for neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Whether it's Nextdoor. Nextdoor is nice because it has you move in, you can sign up, and you found it.
Yeah.
Whereas on Facebook, you might have to go hunting and pecking for it.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons we pushed Nextdoor sort of early on. We do have all of the different, like if they have a Facebook group, we do have that linked on the neighborhood ambassador page. But again, if somebody moves into town and they don't know to go and look, that can be tough too. So I think we're still trying to figure out how to do that, and trying to encourage them and to give them the tools.
Yeah.
But it's also a volunteer position, and
Sure.
we're thankful for their engagement at any level.
Yeah.
Speaking of that too, has there been any turnover of ambassadors? And then if there is there a policy in place to replace people?
Yeah, so we've had some folks had to step away. Whether some folks had a change of needed to start taking care of a family member or their job changed and they just didn't have time. So we've had some folks that haven't been able to attend any of the meetings. So Jillian, in those cases, for example, will reach out and say, "Is this really a good fit? Maybe this isn't a good fit." And if it's not, we list it as a vacancy and try to do some more recruiting. Over the summer, we did go and flyer. We had got some sticky notes and invited folks to come and we went and put them on doors in neighborhoods where we didn't have ambassadors. So that was, and that hasn't really panned out. We haven't gotten any contacts there. So we're still trying to figure out sort of how do you engage people in some of these neighborhoods that we know we have trouble engaging. So I think I think some of that's going to be inviting folks from those neighborhoods into the community center, right, and building relationships before we make that ask, right. I think that's how you make a successful ask is if the first thing you do is ask people to do a thing for you before you get to know them. That's a tough sell.
I also think that if, they have funding to rent an ice cream truck,
Yeah.
just have it go around the neighborhood. It's like free ice cream.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is from your neighborhood ambassador.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, so like over the summer, we worked the library in their summer reading program. They did a neighborhood challenge, which was a really fun way to engage the neighborhood ambassadors and those neighborhoods in the library summer reading program. And they grouped them together. So it wasn't just, one neighborhood against every other neighborhood. But the winning color had ice cream trucks show up. And, the trick there is, of course, it ends up being self-reinforcing. That would be a great opportunity to talk to a neighborhood about, did you know you have a neighborhood ambassador, or we don't have one? We'd love for you to join this program. But the folks who end up engaging and doing the challenge, signing up for the summer reading program and putting in their neighborhood, are the ones that have neighborhood ambassadors. So again, this is just this piece that we just need to be aware of as we sort of approach this, so that we don't end up sort of enlarging that gap by reinforcing the folks that are engaging to the detriment of the folks that aren't.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments on the staff report? All right, moving on. Old business. Any old business we would like to discuss? All right, new business. Did I tell them? Do they know? Nick,
What's that?
do they know?
I haven't told them. I figured it wasn't my news to share.
This will be my last meeting. I will be moving to the Des Moines area later on this month, taking on a new role. So, yeah.
Oh,
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, congratulations.
Thank
but,
you.
Yeah, sad to see you go.
Yeah, I was like, this will be good practice for you.
I'll hold your hand through it, right?
So, yeah, that's my new business.
We will miss you. Thank you for
Yeah,
being
very
involved, and
much.
thank you for all your engagement on this
Thanks for
commission.
having me
Yes, it's been great.
and letting me ask a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah, they've always been good
I'll
questions.
have to have you watch the Facebook feed and feed us some questions.
I'll be the public comment. I'll be
We
the
can still-
public comment
We can
finally.
zoom you in, I hope.
But I reached out to the new outreach and equity coordinator, so to help her be successful here. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, great.
All right. Any other new business you'd like to discuss?
I have one, and I
Yeah.
emailed Nick about it, just wondering whether this would be appropriate. So I'll start with explanation as to how it came about. I was with my daughter in North Carolina, and they have a couple grandchildren there, and they live in a small community near Charlotte. So the community is very friendly. So it would be, and I did a lot of walks in the community or in the neighborhood, and people were waving at me all the time. They would roll down their window and stick their hand out and wave at me. They didn't know me,
Yeah.
They didn't know. I'm new, but it didn't matter. So I would like to see North Liberty establish a wave, in the neighborhood wave. So when I came back, I thought, I'm going to try this. Because we live right off of South Front Street, and since Rancho is closed, all that traffic is being brought down Front Street. And it would, and so that's the neighborhood that I'd walk in daily, early morning, 7:30, 7 a.m. And the traffic is backed up, and they're just creeping along. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to try this. So I do this, and then another, and they wave back. And then another car right directly behind them saw what I was doing, and they were already ready for me when I got to their car, because I was walking, they were going this way, and I was going the opposite direction of them. So we were fairly close, the car to the sidewalk. And they were getting enthusiastic. They were starting to get their children involved, and they were waving with both hands. And I kept walking and walking, and they kept waving. And I really started to get tears of joy. It really felt good. And then on the sidewalk, as I was walking, I could see two young boys. They looked like they were in first grade, second grade, something like that, on bikes. And they could see what I was doing. I mean, they're down probably 100 feet away from me, and they're waving at me as they're riding their bike toward me. So it was so cool. I just like to see maybe the neighborhood ambassadors could pick up on this and maybe do something with it, or maybe the city could do something with it, or establish, hey, this is a North Liberty Wave.
Challenge.
Something like, yeah.
Wave
The
challenge.
North Liberty Wave Challenge.
So, and it is such a simple act,
Yeah.
it's not and it's all inclusive because it has no language barrier. It's a hello,
Yeah.
it's just a nonverbal, it's just a gesture. So I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, that could even if it doesn't grow into a thing, it could be the topic of a really cool video,
Yeah.
something that could be produced, and
But we can also just
even
start
just
it.
follow you around with a camera crew for a day.
Yeah. But we can also start it with us. You said what you did, and now I'm challenged to do it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I was
funny.
really hesitant to start,
Yeah.
because I thought, well, I don't know what I'm going to receive.
Yeah.
Somebody throwing a beer can at me or what. But no, it wasn't that at all. It was just so, I felt so much joy just
Yeah.
doing it.
That's
without-
a very easy thing to do.
Yeah, and it's nonverbal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came from a very small town, and that was just natural. So I get
Yeah,
made fun
yeah.
of now because I actually do that all the time.
Yeah.
I only do it to my neighbors, but I'm challenged to do it outside of my comfort zone now.
Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna just do it in the car and just.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's a
Cool.
great idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the next meeting, you have to count how many people you wave to.
Yeah.
That's- Oh,
I'll add it to the agenda.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other new business? All right, then adjournment. Can I get a motion?
I move to adjourn.
I will second.
All right, all in favor of closing out this meeting tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Say aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Last gavel.